And letting go of fear is the key thing. And when you get to that point where you're observing your mind and you're observing your emotions instead of being them, it's amazing how fear, and I can only talk for myself and talking to other people who've been through it, fear starts to leave you. Because what is there to fear when you've reached that point, not only of realization, but of observing the world from a point of view of that which is always has been, always will be, infinite consciousness, eternal consciousness, which is what we are. The other thing that it holds us in servitude is insecurity. How many people are always put a mask to the world? It's not who they really are. It's what they think other people think they should be. So instead of putting ourselves to the world, we put this mask to the world that we think is acceptable to the world. Consciousness does not do insecurity, and it certainly doesn't do putting masks on to fulfill other people's perceptions of what you should be. Consciousness is all possibility. It is all potential. You know, people think about, one consciousness, and they think, oh, that means, yeah, I'm one consciousness, yeah, I'm one consciousness, I'm one consciousness. If it's some clone-like state, consciousness, in the form that I'm talking about at the infinite level of us, is all possibility. Therefore, when we celebrate our uniqueness and celebrate our diversity and celebrate the diversity and uniqueness of each other, we are celebrating the fact that we are infinite consciousness, because we're celebrating all possibility. What happens is when we get caught in mind, that's when you get the clone. Yeah, I'm mind. Yeah, I'm mind. Yes, I'm mind. All the bloody clones line up, all look the same and all the rest of it, and speak the same and think the same. That's mind. So, celebrating uniqueness and being conscious are the same things. And that's why if you look, the more mind has taken over, the more this earth has become more and more uniform. And as we become more and more conscious, we will be celebrating diversity, and diversity will start to return in the way we live our lives. The key thing to breaking the spell is breaking out of belief systems. It's a good question. What would consciousness do? How would consciousness see this? Well, like I said earlier, consciousness doesn't do religion, because religion is a mind phenomenon that sees everything in terms of apartness and rules and regulations and all the rest of it. Consciousness doesn't do that. So religion's out. If we are going to be conscious, then religion's gone. Politics, well, consciousness vote? I mean, what's going on? Consciousness doesn't do belief systems like politics, so that's gone, that belief system. Race, it doesn't do race. You know, the human form is just a vehicle for consciousness to experience this reality. It doesn't do my genetic spacesuit is better than yours, and because yours is of different color or comes from a different background, I'm better than you, and I'm the master race, or I'm the chosen race, and all the rest of it. Consciousness doesn't do that. Mind does that. When we think in those terms, we're in mind, not consciousness. And self-identity. If we have a self-identity that says, I am my body, and I am my name, and that is me, that is who I am, we're in mind. When we say my name and my body and my life is my experience, the experience of my consciousness, then we're recognizing who we really are, which is consciousness having an experience.
Yep. Why do you think these people see the media as being so important? You know, the reality is quite different. You know, the media isn't really important. It's how we use it. It's how we view it. You know, the reality is that we, as a society, in this hypnotized and almost catatonic and comatose state, we have given our free will for everything that's going on. We've given our free will consent to the state the planet is in today. Most people in modern societies, I mean, you know, we saturate our minds with all sorts of unhealthy things that are not good for us. I mean, things that are served up for us on television. And people are quite addicted to their televisions. Most people spend their time consuming violence, pornography, greed, selfishness, hatred, you know, incessant bad news and fear and terror. I mean, when was the last time a lot of people out there just stopped and thought about something really, really beautiful and really pure? something wonderful that really warms your heart and puts that energy into the field. When was the last time you stopped and did that? The planet is the way it is because of our collective thoughts about the planet. And those people out there who don't affect positive change, they are complicit in their inaction. And every time you look the other way when you see an injustice, your thought at the subconscious level of creation to the Creator is your allowance of these things to occur. And in so doing, you're serving the wrong purpose. Those who think violent thoughts against those whom they perceive to be the rulers of this world, be careful what you wish for, folks, because all thoughts and words are creative. And there was a statement I read somewhere, I'm not sure who it was by, that said, in order to choose the positive path, at least 51% of our thoughts and actions must be dedicated to the service of others. But for the negative path, at least 95% of our thoughts and actions must be directed towards self-service. And between those 2 points lies the sinkhole of indifference. And it's truly a sinkhole, folks. Indifference is the vein of consciousness, to lead you down a path of repetition that becomes ever more negative. It's the will to serve self, and it becomes ever more negative and polarized. But negativity is necessary, folks. It's very important, for without negativity, there can be no positivity, and without the negative, there can't be the positive. It's all about free will and freedom of choice, my friends. And if negativity did not exist, there would be no choice, because there would be nothing for us to choose between. It's all about service to self or service to others. That's the whole thing about this life, service to self or service to others. Do the right thing in all that you do, or do what is right for you personally. That's the choice, folks. And it's a pretty easy choice to make once you begin to understand this sort of thing. I choose service to others. And I don't try to wake up people to the reality of these things out of fear. I don't try to wake people up to what's going on in the world because I'm worried about the future. I do it because I love you. I do it because I love you all. I truly do. I've never met a person that I didn't love, even the most negative. Some people will just say these are evil people. I don't see them as evil. I see them as polarized. And it's necessary for them to be that way. Otherwise they wouldn't be that way. Because having these polarized energies in the world is the only way that consciousness can ascend into something more positive.
So can you believe in a future that you can't see or experience with your senses yet, but you've thought about enough times in your mind that your brain is literally changed to look like the event has already happened? Neuroscience says it's absolutely possible. Now, your personality creates your personal reality. That's it. It's that simple. And your personality is made up of how you think, how you act, and how you feel. So the present personality who's sitting here today, you, has created the present personal reality called your life. Would you agree? Would you also agree then, if you wanted to create a new personal reality, that on a fundamental level you would have to change the thoughts that you are thinking, the behaviors and habits that you're demonstrating, and the emotions that you've memorized that's become part of your identity? And most people try to create a new personal reality as the same personality, and it never works. We have to become somebody else. So then, as you keep thinking the same thoughts, performing the same actions, and living by the same experiences that produce the same emotions, there's a principle in neuroscience that says nerve cells that fire together wire together. And if you keep repeating the same states of mind and body over and over again, your brain begins to fire in the same sequences, in the same patterns and same combinations. And whenever you make your brain work in a certain way, that's called mind. Mind is the brain in action. So as you remind yourself every day who you think you are, you're causing your brain to fire in the exact same ways. And as they fire and wire in the same patterns over time, the brain moves into a very finite signature, and that's called your personality. Now, that box in your brain isn't literally a box, but it's the most commonly wired, neurologically fired programs that run redundantly because we keep doing the same things over and over again. To change your mind, then, is to make the brain work in new sequences and new patterns and new combinations, to begin to make the brain work differently. And the one ingredient that allows us to do that is knowledge or information. Because every time you learn something new, you make a new connection in your brain. That's what learning is. Learning is forging new connections. Remembering is maintaining or sustaining those connections. So now, every time you have a thought, you make a chemical. And if you have a great thought, or an unlimited thought, or a joyful thought, you turn on a set of circuits in your brain that fires in a very specific sequence, pattern, and combination that produces a level of mind that turns on another part of the brain that makes a chemical for you to begin to feel exactly the way you were just thinking, great or unlimited or joyful.
I wish that I could tell you that the load you carry will get lighter. It won't. As time passes, you'll find it will get heavier. The mountain that you need to climb will get higher. The ocean that you need to cross will get wider. Trust me when I tell you that you don't want to wait. Indecision is a decision.
Was the only person that didn't have a window. They literally put me in the room with all the computer servers. But starting from there, I knew I could wow people because I was willing to grind it out.
And Carl, our videographer, had his family over, and we live around, at that time we lived around the corner from each other. Now we live on the same block. Random, right? Christmas was over, we just going to the house, just eating dinner. It just was a random night.
A decision to fail, a decision to waste your potential. Time won't wait for you. Time doesn't wait for anyone. The clock keeps ticking in life. There are no timeouts, no breaks, and no rest stops. Remember something else, that if plan A doesn't work, there are 25 other letters in the alphabet. This isn't 3 strikes and you're out. This isn't baseball, it's the real world. And that means there's no limit on how many times you're allowed to try.
And that is one of the most valuable things that anybody can do. All right, now that company, we grew to the point where in 2010, it was a technology company. It was named as the 42nd fastest growing technology company in North America. I had suffered a lot. I hadn't taken a day off in like 6.5 years, except for Christmas, in fairness. I wouldn't let my wife go on a vacation because I was so hell-bent to get rich. And then I realized, almost 8.5 years in, here we are. We've just been named the 42nd fastest growing technology company in North America. We're making money, we're winning awards. Beautiful conference room overlooking the Pacific Ocean, and I turn to my partners and I say, I'm completely miserable, I quit.
The only time your dream dies is when you decide to quit. You need to be ready for what's to come. When the darkness sets in, when you feel like you can't take another step forward, believe in yourself. You will keep going, you will persevere. You will weather the storm. Trust in yourself, the kind of trust a bird has. You see, the bird doesn't put its trust in the branch. It puts its trust in its own wings. So when the branch breaks, it can still fly. Again, you can weather any storm. You can withstand anything the world throws at you.
Remember that the safest path brings the least reward. Stop being afraid of what could go wrong and start believing in what could go right. There may be a million reasons you're afraid to follow your dreams, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't go after what your heart desires. Dare to face your fears, dare to take risks, dare to be better.
And I hand back your equity. I'm not going to cross the finish line. I don't think I should get anything for that. And they said what are now famous words for me, we could do this without you, but we don't want to. And in that moment, I realized what had been missing. I realized the reason I was living the cliche of money can't buy happiness. I was realizing why what Tony Robbins says about success without fulfillment being the worst kind of failure was because what I cared about was connection. I'd gotten into it and gotten to know these guys, and along the way had become so myopically focused on this promise I'd made to myself as a kid that I never stopped to ask, why do I want to get rich? What is it that I plan to do with the money? The money in and of itself, it's inert. It just sits there. I'm sure you guys have a bunch of it in your pocket right now and it doesn't do anything, but it has latent potential. But the question is, what are you going to do with that potential?
Don't let pride confuse your tears. You've got to let that out. Sometimes you've got to let it go. When I lost my mom years ago, that was the hardest thing that I had to deal with. And to this day, I still think about that woman that gave me life. And I have my moments when I'm happy about the good times, but I also have my moments when she left this world. But that's just one thing, that's just one circumstance. There are many circumstances I can talk about, but I continue to move on. Everybody gets knocked down no matter how tough you think you are, you're gonna fall. And when you fall, sometimes you fall real hard.
And somehow we got to talking, and Carl's wife is from Barbados and she didn't have citizenship. So unfortunately, she was in the States without citizenship, and so she had to stay in school in order to eventually get her citizenship. So she did her master's degree, and she was in her PhD. And it was weird. It was just like, yo, E.T., I don't know how it happened, but it was like, yo, E.T., my wife is going to get her degree before you get yours. Right? I'm an American citizen. Like, I had already been in the program for a few years, and, she, and it was, I don't know, but have you ever heard, like, when it's your time?
Ground is a hard surface, and I'm going to tell you something, it ain't going to move because you're laying on it, so you need to rise up and you need to rise above it, and you need to start moving when you get knocked down. How long are you going to stay down? When you lose your job, when you lose that loved one, regardless if it's your husband, your wife, your child, whatever it is, do you have the ability to go through the hurt and the pain of that loss regardless of what you're going through? The best time you know that you are strong is when you're at the weakest point of your life. When you are so far down at home, you're looking up and you don't see no light, but yet you know there's an end to this darkness. That's when you'll find out just how strong you really are. This is a process and you have to hurt just a little bit so you can understand what it means to be strong.
Like, it's that moment. It's like, enough is enough. I can't tell you. People have asked me before, Eric, when you get your PhD? I'm like, I'll get it done. E.T., how far are you in the process? Finish all my coursework. I just got to write the dissertation. But it was something about that night that was different. It was almost the end of the year. And I remember Carl, listen to me very closely, guys. I'm being real with you. I didn't even have a conversation with Carl. Like, we never even talked about it afterwards. I never said anything to him about it, but I felt this guilt. I felt like this embarrassment. Like, and for real, he wasn't like speaking directly to me. He was just saying, hey, E, I think my wife's probably gonna finish her degree before you finish yours. And I'm talking about like it pierced. And I just remember like we were talking afterwards and I didn't hear anything. Like, bro, have you ever been in a conversation and it just shifts and somebody's talking to you and like you can't hear the words that are coming out of their mouth? I didn't hear anything he said. I just kept it like, E, when are you gonna get this done, E?
Misery, it will continue to do all that is necessary to succeed. Misery is on a mission to take everything away from you because your mind is very powerful. Bring in the goodness, moving with a purpose, conditioning your mind is what this is about. Today is that day. And when and if tomorrow comes for you, be even more powerful. Be stronger than you've ever been.
Don't give up on your hopes. Don't give up on your dreams. Don't give up on yourself. Just keep moving forward. If you think that you're going through something so bad right now, wait until tomorrow. If tomorrow comes for you, look at the person next to you. Look at people all over the world. If you ever come in contact with certain individuals, and ask yourself if they're going through a lot more than what I'm going through, because honestly, there are always going to be people that are going through a lot more than you're going through right now. When you're down, find a way to get up. I've been there. I go through it like anybody else, but I have a job to do in this world, and so do you. Self-discipline comes from within. It's a desire. It's being able to understand that you've got to get the work in.
Rectify in yourself. Believe in yourself. Keep that faith in yourself. Don't let the outside interference stop your growth. Don't let those that doubted you and said that you did not have it hold you back. Don't let the losses keep you down. Because if you're down, how would you understand what it means to get up? What is good about being miserable? What is misery doing for you? What has misery done for you lately? Has it given you everything that you need? Has it made you a better person?
You got to be willing to go further and harder than you've ever gone in your life. You can't depend on all the mechanical things, the alarm clock, your cell phone, or sometimes even people, sometimes just you. You got to be willing to wake up and be about your business on a daily basis. Let's just say for example, you're the type of person that can't seem to get away from all of the cravings you can't do. This without this, you can't do this without that. You need your coffee, you can't stop. Eating chocolate, all of these things you keep saying that you can't do. Well, let me remind you, can never do anything for you in the first place. So discipline starts with you. You have to be willing to be hungry.
Now, I know that sounds boring, stupid, basic, but it's the truth. The only thing that changes our life long term is when we raise our standards. What does that mean? That sounds so boring and dumb. It means that all of us in life have things we want. We don't get what we want, we get what we have to have. Remember I said earlier, we all get what we tolerate in ourselves and other people. But when you're no longer willing to tolerate something, that's when your life changes. The difference in people is their standards, period.
If you want to begin to really enjoy a happy, successful, healthy life, you've got to be willing to go against the tide. You've got to be willing to harness your will and say, in spite of this, I'm in control here. I'm not going to let this get me down. I'm not going to let this destroy me. I'm coming back, and I'll be stronger and better because of it. You have got to make a declaration that this is what you stand for. You're standing up for your dreams. You're standing up for peace of mind. You're standing up for health. You want it, and you're going to go all out to have it. Expect things to get better for you, because they are. See, life is cyclic. You're not, whatever experience you're having right now, it has not come to stay. It has come to pass. Not to stay, just to pass. It's just going through. The biggest challenge is to know what's happening. This is a part of this thing we call life. This too shall pass. And maintaining perspective, putting it in perspective.
There's so much knowledge out there, so much information, so many ways to get better. And we make so many mistakes. We're the product of our mistakes. And oftentimes the lesson is sitting there right in front of our face. It's there to be learned, but we miss it, or we don't pay attention to it, or we think we know better until it punches us in the face. And the most important thing to learn is that we have so much to learn. We all do. And we can learn from school and from people and from experience, and we learn from life. You have to process the information. You have to absorb it. You have to accept it. You have to open your mind. You gotta free your mind so that you can learn and make real progress. And as far as regrets and things I wish I would have done differently, of course, who wouldn't want to take another go at something and improve on the first try by doing it again? And then why not do it again and again and again? And why not just do it over and over again until you have it perfect? But the fact is, you don't get that chance. You get one shot at this gig right here, life.
I want to encourage somebody out there who's thinking about quitting and giving up, somebody who has been praying for years for things to turn around. You're thinking about quitting, you're thinking about giving up, you are caving in. This is for you.
I'm in a fight for my life. I'm in a fight to be a man. I'm in a fight to be a father. I'm in a fight to be a mama. Some of me wants to quit it and walk away. I'm in a fight. Give me somebody in here.
Don't give up. Don't give up. Stay in it. Stay focused.
You need to change your mind because some of you are thinking about giving up because you're in a season of failure. But just because you failed doesn't mean that God doesn't have a bright future in store for you. It is always too soon to quit.
He wants you to give up and think nothing can grow there. The devil is a lie. The darkness is not real.
This is not the time to throw in the towel. This is not the time to give up. It's the time to trust God more, to dig in deeper.
The joy is not in the success. The joy is in trying. The joy is in the process, that I'm going to keep working. I'm going to keep going at it. See, failure is forming my future. Failure is just another peg in the ladder for me to go higher. I don't want to just know how to make it work. I want to know why it doesn't work. And the only way I can find that out is I got to fall on my face. But guess what? The righteous man falls 7 times, but he gets back up.
Everybody has something that strikes terror in them to do it. Whatever you got hurt at, whatever you got damaged in, it's the thing that you struggle to do. Those strongholds come against you every time you try to move outside of your little prison. And people think you are angry, but the anger is the fruit. The root is the fear. Most angry people are scared. Pull it by the root. Strongholds, casting down imaginations, envisioning self-destruction, the enemy terrorizing you with what he might do.
When I'm discouraged, I need somebody to come alongside me to encourage me that weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. That kind of talk wakes up my faith. It stirs my faith to know that no matter how dark my situation, God can work it out.
I'm telling you, it's possible to be weak. It's possible to feel overwhelmed, outnumbered, out-resourced. It's possible to feel discouraged. It's possible to be going through something that you've never gone through. And if you were to be honest, would say, I am weak this day, yet I'm still anointed king.
You have to make a decision that I will learn from this thing. I've resolved in my spirit that every experience is my education. So the good experiences and the bad experiences, I'm going to learn from that, and I'm going to discover the opportunity for me to grow and for me to get better. I'm telling you, I've already made up my mind that I know I will fall down. I know that I will stumble, but I already see myself getting back up. Therefore, I'm never down. I'm either up or getting back up. I'm going to learn.
You got to go through some things in order for you to get faith. You've got to have some life experiences under your belt so you can talk about how strong your faith is. Because if your faith has never been tested, you can't brag on how strong it is.
Anxiety, it makes us feel out of control, and we're trying to put things in order. And so often the very thing that we're afraid of, it's not even as bad as fear itself. Fear is always false evidence appearing real. And when you abide in fear, you're gonna always be running for your life. That's why we're the people of God, and we focus on our faith, because our faith always leads us to life, and life more abundantly.
Somebody needs to know today you're going to make it. Somebody needs to know today you're doing all right. You may not be what you ought to be, but you're not what you used to be. And you're going to get there by God's grace. Don't you give up, don't you quit, and don't you keep putting yourself down. You're doing better than you think you are.
Yet what I'm learning more and more in life is that it's fear that causes anxiety. The other side of the coin from depression is always anxiety. Anxiety has this ability to stretch your soul thin and you feel out of control. Depression, on the other hand, is when you feel like your life is being constricted inward and darkness is enveloping over you. Typically, if you have any level of anxiety, depression will follow. If you have depression, anxiety is right around the corner. Having anxiety and depression is like being scared and tired at the same time. It's the fear of failure, but no urge to be productive. It's wanting friends, but hate socializing. It's wanting to be alone, but not wanting to be lonely. It's feeling everything at once, then feeling paralyzing numb.
What story do I want to tell later down the road? See, every stage in our life becomes a story. At some point, you will end up telling it. We have to remember that the decisions that we make today will be a part of our life story tomorrow. So as you're making the decision, you got to ask yourself, what story do I want to tell a little bit later down the road? And if what you're doing does not line up with what you think you want to tell a little bit later, then you might want to rethink what you are doing.
I just want to tell you, don't let this chapter that you're going through make you in your story. Don't let depression lie to you and tell you that you're not enough, that tells you that there's no more better days, that tells you that your best days are behind you, that tells you you're a nobody, that tells you that you're better off dead. Don't let it lie to you, because it's been lying to you so long that you're starting to believe that's true. You're starting to live that out.
Good intentions are worthless. Worthless, folks. When are you going to fall out of love with good intentions? Good intentions are worthless unless they lead to good actions. Nobody ever had their life changed by somebody hoping, thinking. Good intentions are not enough.
Because there are some things in your life that you are not ready to turn loose. There are some sins you're not ready to get rid of. There are some issues and some hang-ups that is stunning your spiritual growth. You can't be all God wants you to be with some stuff you're still hiding.
It's time for you to dig up all those seeds of doubt, all those seeds of lies. And at this moment, replace those seeds with seeds of faith. And how you do that is just simply this. How you fight your depression is just simply this. You tell yourself, yeah, I'm going through this, but at least I'm not dead. Find a way to find appreciation. Somebody has it worse. Somebody wants your life as bad as you think that it is. Somebody's praying to be in your shoes, and you're still here. So I want you to keep fighting. You find any reason to survive right now, to make it to see tomorrow.
That drive and that attitude of never quit, it's a powerful force, and it does push you over the edge to victory in many cases. But over that attitude, you have to layer something on top of that. It's basically strategic vision and understanding of the battlefield as a whole. So you absolutely need to know when you got to stop beating your head against the wall. You've got to know that.
You got to do battle with your own indifference. Boy, it's easy to coast, especially if you've accomplished something, extraordinary. Now, somebody says, I got to relax. Here's the key, not too long. You got to make those decisions. The ones that don't turn out to be good gives you experience to make better decisions. Don't let much time go by without making some decisions. The ones that you can make quickly, make them quickly. The ones that take time, take your time. Don't let indecision be an enemy, rob you of the future, empty your bank account. Don't let that happen.
I could do something different and get a different result. So I want that sting. I want to know I tried something and it didn't work because I want to trigger.
Long as you're here, you have a chance to transcend yourself. So don't believe in perfection. It doesn't exist. It only makes improvement. So I would practice every day, every day, every day.
So again, when you think about these guys enhance their abilities. They go beyond and they exceed expectations because it's that mindset of wanting to be great. I think Kobe said it best, and I think a lot of athletes that are, hovering around that stratosphere of being great and considered one of the greatest is that it's a relentless pursuit of greatness.
I think I've said the easiest thing to do is hold that trophy. That's the easiest thing to do in this process. And that's only going to be for a very short amount of time. The work, the commitment. Like I said, not getting up when you're knocked down. I mean, throughout Kobe's career, in Michael's career, LeBron's career, Dwayne's career, Magic Johnson's career, there's always going to be these struggles or challenges that you have to get over, and the hardest part is in you trying to be one of the best in the game.
Focus and memory, and I want to look at what I could do differently next time to get a better result. Because I know while other people are laughing at me, I'm laughing back at them because on a long enough timeline, I can be anyone at anything because I can self-soothe. I don't need it to be somebody else's problem. I don't need to point fingers at other people. I don't need to blame the culture. I don't need to blame society. I don't need to blame anybody other than myself. And even that word doesn't have power over me. It doesn't make me feel badly about myself. Yes, I am the cause of this problem, in as much as had I done something different, I would have gotten a different result. Now that makes me feel empowered. So now I'm in this powerful loop of taking on the responsibility, saying I can do something different. I can change this. I can get a better result.
And finally, I went over to this radio station, asked a guy for a job named Mr. Butterwall, and I said, how you doing, sir? I'd like to get a job. I was working on Miami Beach at the Fontainebleau Hotel at the time. Jackie Gleason and the June Taylor Dancers were famous. And my favorite program on television, most people would not remember, John Beresford Tipton. Hi, my name is Michael Anthony. I have a check for $1 million. How many of you remember that program, all right? The Millionaire, that was my favorite program on television, So this was my fantasy, and every time we would drive from Miami Beach, I would fantasize, oh, that's the house. When I get my million, I'm going to buy my mother that home over there. So that was my fantasy. So I went up to Mr. Butterball, and he said, do you have any radio experience? I said, no, sir. You have any background in journalism? I said, no, sir. I said, but I can never get experience if you don't give me the opportunity. I've been practicing a lot, sir. He said, I'm sorry, we don't have any job for you. I said, thank you, sir.
But I wanted that sting of really staring at my inadequacies, really looking at and analyzing my failure. And then I know, repeating ideas, right? This hurts. With next time I'm going to be better. And I'm not going to sit in that pain for very long because I understand, I need a brief moment of pain. If I spend too much time there, I'm going to get lost in the pain and I'm not going to do what I need to do, which is improve. So I never allow myself to wallow in that suffering. I want it, but I want it briefly, just enough to trigger the action. Now, how do I make sure that I walk that fine line? By one very simple thing, a rule in my life that says I only do and believe that which moves me towards my goals. So if believing that I need to beat myself up and suffer and realize that I'm a loser, if that was going to move me towards my goal, which is fulfillment at the highest level, of course, there are times where you're going to slice that up and it's going to be what are the exact things that I need to do to reach fulfillment.
He didn't know my reasons for being there. My reason, I wanted to use radio as a means to earn the money to buy my mother a home. I went back to the radio station again. I said, how you doing, Mr. Butterball? My name is Les Brown. I know your name. Didn't I just see you here yesterday? I said, yes, sir. I said, y'all have any jobs here? Didn't I tell you yesterday we didn't have any jobs? Yes, sir, but I thought maybe somebody got fired or resigned. I didn't know, sir. I went the next day. How you doing, Mr. Butterball? He said, yes. And I just didn't take it personal. How you doing? So y'all have any jobs here? Didn't I just tell you yesterday and the day before we didn't have any work? I went the next day, showed up like nothing was wrong, like I saw him for the first time. How you doing, Mr. Butterball? Y'all have any? He said, boy, make yourself useful. Go get me some food. I said, yes, sir. See, many times when you want more, you've got to be willing to pay your dues. So I became their errand boy. I would get their lunch and their dinner and all kind of food for them. After a while, I would take the food to them in the control room and I would not leave until they would ask me to. And I'd watch them working the controls and I'd memorize their hand movements. And pretty soon they would trust me with their cars to go pick up entertainers.
There's going to be a tension with it. Right, you're put on a pedestal and you fall even harder, when you do. So I really had to learn how much you have to prepare, you have to live it. You have to want it so bad to where you'll sacrifice those Saturday nights or Friday nights with your friends. You know you'll sacrifice if you're in high school or something and the dance is this week, you know if there's more dances I'm going to the gym, you know this is what I'm going to put my time into because this is what I want. And being around all of those great players, getting to see their commitments, see their rituals, see how much they put into the game.
If you just stay on course, it'll take you further than you can ever imagine. You know, I think for me personally, what set me apart, I think from everyone else, is that my dedication and my discipline and just the execution of being consistent is what put me in a different stratosphere, just put me on a different level. And I think people were able to see that. Sometimes, like I said, I didn't want to just blend in. I wanted to stand out. When you start to become successful,
character is the person you are after you've chiseled and have gotten past all the unnecessary material to what's underneath. But since we're usually surrounded by other people, let me be a little more specific about how the differences between a charismatic person and a person with character can play out in the real world, particularly in leadership situations. Here are 4 sets of circumstances that can easily occur. First, a really charismatic person can make people believe there's pie in the sky, or that the sky is going to fall tomorrow, one just as easily as the other. By creating these expectations, charismatic individuals can indeed energize and inspire others, or terrify and demotivate them, until the overblown scenarios are proven false.
I mean, it was second to none. Always take those processes. If you have a goal, there will be obstacles. In your way, you can climb them, you can run around, and you can do everything, but you're going to have to put the work in to make sure that you accomplish your dreams. The most critical piece of advice that I've ever gotten, and I won't name who it is, from a coach. One day, all he said, and paint the picture for you, I was a rookie. I'm 19 years old, I'm playing with guys old enough to be my dad. I'm getting thrown around, I'm playing a level of basketball that I'm barely hanging on by a nail with, but I'm one of our best players, so I'm playing every night. I want to go home, I'm not used to the cold.
You're not going to be 100% liked by everyone. There's so many layers and so many elements of being a professional athlete and being in that sport. You're going to be subjected to criticism. You know, whether you do good or bad, people are going to talk about you, good, bad, or what have you, but you have to be strong-willed, and I think that's who and how I was, and I think a lot of that, like I said, stemmed from the upbringing of my grandmother. But at the end of the day, I think an athlete, again, to get to where you want to be and the process in which it takes to get there, you have to be addicted to bettering yourself. You have to be addicted to bettering yourself. And that's what I became. You have to have a relentless pursuit of really just perfection, greatness. Obviously, it boils down to my 3 Ds: desire, dedication, and discipline.
And the charisma runs out. But a person of character doesn't need to be anyone's Pied Piper and isn't comfortable in that role. Instead, he or she looks within for the true source of inspiration and energy. Second, a charismatic person can inspire devoted or even fanatical loyalty. But this can all too easily turn into an unconscious sense of dependency, and that can make matters difficult when the leader is no longer available. Like a charismatic coach, effective during the glory years, but when he leaves the organization, there is a sense of abandonment, and the team may never achieve anything like its prior success. Powerful personalities often resist delegating authority, but it's an attitude of character for a leader to refrain from making himself or herself the indispensable heart and soul of an organization.
I'm getting beat up, but I wouldn't quit, and I was looking for this piece of advice from someone. And all they told me was just like they would always tell me, hey man, keep going, just keep going. All the time, every time, and I got so mad because I'm looking for that euphoric feeling from the piece of information that they're about to give me, right? That's why I think we all kind of struggle sometimes, looking for that and putting too much pressure on the situation. But as I got older, as I continued to train, as I continued to not give up and not let a loss define me or my character.
Your view of the world depends upon how much you respect and love yourself. When you trust in yourself, you're trusting in the same wisdom that created you. When you fail to love yourself, you're denying your own divinity, and therefore attracting the exact opposite of what this source is. This is a source of love and great respect, and it doesn't create anything that it doesn't have a loving feeling towards. If you don't have that feeling of love toward yourself, you can't extend it outward. Who can give away what they don't have for themselves? If you squeeze an orange, you get out of it orange juice. Why? Because it's an orange. That's what's inside. But if someone puts pressure on you and says something about you that you don't like, out of you comes anger and hatred and bitterness and tension and fear and depression and worry and stress. It's not because of who did the squeezing. It's because of what's inside of you. If you don't have love for yourself, you're not trusting in the wisdom that created you. Say these words to yourself every morning. I am whole. I am enough. And I am perfect as I was created. I am whole. I am enough. And I am perfect as I was created. And I came from a source that not only determined the shape of my eye and my body and the color of my skin, but I came from a source that had a great idea about who I should be as well. And that cannot be fulfilled if you're not in a state of love. Most of you guys don't actually know your self-worth, and you're running around empty. The day that you allow the opinions of the outside world to dictate the way you feel about yourself, it is the beginning of a miserable life. Believe in yourself, independent of the validation of the world. Have good feelings about yourself, independent of the opinions of other people. Why do you have to have somebody calling you beautiful every day in order for you to feel beautiful? Do you believe that you're beautiful, or do you only believe you're beautiful when other people say that you're beautiful? We tend to base our self-esteem on what other people think, and that's not really self-esteem. Self-esteem is supposed to be how we feel about ourselves, and it is so dangerous to allow other people to determine how you're going to feel about you. It's like you're going to look in a dirty, broken mirror and then try to change your face to look good in this defiled, broken mirror. Life always mirrors back to us the feelings we have inside. The most important relationship you have is the relationship with yourself. Too many people don't like who they are. They focus on their faults and weaknesses. They wish they were different, wish they were taller, had a better personality, instead of accepting themselves as a masterpiece made in the image of God. They're critical towards themselves, and they wonder why they're not happy and why they don't have good relationships. It's because they don't like themselves. If you don't get along with yourself, you're not going to get along with other people. The best thing you can do for your family and those who are around you is be good to yourself, be kind to yourself, be merciful to yourself, and above all, be loving to yourself. You're good to others. Why aren't you good to yourself? You compliment your coworker, but when was the last time you complimented yourself? That's not being selfish. That's loving yourself. Too many people go through life against themselves, feeling wrong on the inside. I heard someone say, I discovered the enemy. It was me. Are you your enemy? Are you defeating yourself, limiting your dreams and sabotaging your relationships, all because you don't like yourself? You have enough people and circumstances against you, so don't be against yourself also. When you wake up in the morning, don't lie in bed and think of everything wrong with you. Instead of focusing on what's wrong with you, start focusing on what's right with you. You may have weaknesses, you've made mistakes, we all have, but there's a lot more right with you than there is wrong with you. Dwelling on the negative and beating yourself up for past mistakes doesn't move you forward. The better you feel about yourself, the more you like yourself and the further you'll go. You can't give away what you don't have. If you're hard on yourself, you'll be hard on others. If you don't forgive yourself, you won't forgive others. When you love yourself, then you can love others. When you're kind to yourself, then you can be kind to others. Everything starts with you. There will always be criticism and negative comments that could bring you down, and whatever you do, something always looks wrong for some people. But darling, you were not born to be perfect, and it's not your job to fulfill everyone's expectation. You are born to be you, and there is only you in this world. No matter what people say about you, it doesn't define you and won't determine your destiny. To love yourself is to develop a sense of self-awareness and self-acceptance of who you are and what you feel and for what you're passionate about. Now, your main focus is to put yourself above all blame and negativity. You're working on your development and growth, and you're near to your success.